Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs. Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs. And these little pigs lived in a kingdom far, far away from here and a long, long time ago, so you probably will never happen to chance these little pigs. But I have a story I would like to tell you about these 3 little pigs. They had just grown up and were living quite contentedly in their mother's house, but their mother was quite tired of these pigs living there, and she said to her children, "Oh my dear, dear children, it is time that you left." You see, Mom was tired of cooking meals and cleaning up socks and washing laundry and stepping on all their things that they left strewn about the floor. And so Mom, dearest, kicked the 3 little pigs out and said, "It is time that you find your ways about the world and go and live life on your own." Now the 3 little pigs, they knew a little bit about what was supposed to happen once they left, and they each set about in their own way figuring out how to build a house, for that was the most important thing they deemed, having been kicked out of their own. Now the first little pig was known to not be the most productive. This little pig often slept in well past noon and was found to be slothful and lazy, and shortcuts were very much a favorite of this first little pig. So the first little pig happened upon a vendor who was carrying straw to market, and he thought to himself, right here, I am a lucky one indeed. Here is my house." And he approached the man and said, good sir, how much for the straw that you carry upon your back?" And the vendor said, "Oh, but for 5 pennies you can have all of this." And the first little pig said, "Why, this is such a deal." And he bought it all right up right then and went immediately to build his new house. And within the hour it was complete. And he said, "Well, hard day's work. I think I shall relax and enjoy the fruits of my labor." And it was a quite beautiful house to be made out of straw. Now the second little pig, a little more resourceful than the first little pig. You see, he liked to think about what to do. He was a little bit more of a thinker. Not quite as lazy. He was often up by about 9 o'clock in the morning. And as he was out walking around, he came across a vendor on his way to market carrying sticks. And the second little pig thought, by golly, if I am not the luckiest pig alive. Here is my house. And he said to the vendor, good sir, how much for those sticks that you carry?" And the vendor looked at him and said, "But for 10 pennies you can have all of it." And the second little pig bought it all up, carried it to his new place, and immediately set about building a house. And after a good half-day's work, he had built a wonderful little house out of sticks, and he said to himself, well, isn't this beautiful? Now I will sit back and enjoy the fruits of my labor." Now the third little pig was definitely by far the one who understood the value of $1, didn't mind a hard day's work, and was willing to put in whatever it took to get the job done. Now this little pig saw the straw vendor and kept walking. He saw the stick vendor, he also kept walking, and he kept walking to market till he was almost there, and he saw a vendor selling bricks by the road, and he thought to himself, these bricks seem strong and sturdy, just the material that one would need for a house. And so he said to the vendor, good sir, how much for these bricks that you sell?" And the vendor looked at him and said, "Well, but for 10. And the vendor looked at him and said, "But for 20 pennies you can have it all." And the pig said, "Well, it is a bit expensive, but bricks do last." And so he bought it, and he took it to his new plot, and he spent 2 full days building. And when he was done, he had quite a magnificent, glorious house out of bricks. And he sat back to enjoy his handiwork. Now, little beknownst to the pigs, there was, in fact, a threat lurking in the neighborhood. A threat that you might have heard of. He goes by the name of the Big Bad Wolf. And oftentimes when he is hungry, he goes out on the prowl, looking for his next meal, and he likes to prey upon little pigs. If he can find them, it is a delicacy. It is a delicious morsel, tasty, fresh to his mouth. Now this wolf happened to be in the neighborhood of the first little pig, and he could smell something glorious as he walked, and he said, "Ah, I do believe that I have found my supper." It's gotten actually rather dark in here now. And he walked up to the straw house, and putting on his most polite Big Bad Wolf voice that he could, he knocked gently upon the door. "Oh, little pig, let me in." Now the pig wasn't stupid. He could see that there was a wolf out there. He looked out the window, and he thought, well, this is not a good idea to let a wolf in. And so he walked up to the door, and he said, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." Well, the Big Bad Wolf was not one to take no for an answer, and being quite peckish, said, "Well, then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house down." And the first little pig, quite content and sure that his house would in fact stand against a wolf blowing, said, "No." And so the Big Bad Wolf, he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the straw house all over the yard. And in the process of it being blown over, the little pig was thrown far from his house, and when the wolf showed up, he found this pig had been quite dead as a doornail, and the wolf thought, well, this is perfect indeed. I don't even have to work for my meal. Here it is. And he gobbled him right up. Now, the wolf, being big and bad, was quite hungry, and so he continued on his way until he came to the second little pig's house. And again, he could smell it before he was there, and his stomach began to rumble, and he thought, oh my, if I am not in luck today. And he strolled up to the door, and using his same voice said, little pig, let me in." Now the second little pig was also not stupid, and he saw out the window that there was a Big Bad Wolf on the door asking to come in, and he thought to himself, well, this can't be a very good idea. And so he called out, "Well, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." And the Big Bad Wolf just looked at him and said, "Well, then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I will blow your house down." Well, the second little pig thought, well, he can try, but I have built a pretty sturdy house. And so the Big Bad Wolf did just that. He huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the house down, and the sticks went flying, and the little pig went flying. And the wolf went over to inspect, and there he found the second little pig dead as a doornail. And so he gobbled him right up. And he thought to himself, my, I am such a lucky gentleman today. I have found 2 meals quite easily attained. Fortunately, I still am rather peckish. And so he continued on his way. And it wasn't before too long that he came to the third little pig's house. And he could smell before he was there. And he thought to himself, well, this wouldn't be the third course to my magnificent meal. And he strode right up to the door, quite confident in his ability. And he knocked and he said, little pig, let me in." Now the third little pig barely got up, and he recognized immediately the voice of a hungry wolf, and he just merely called from his armchair, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." Well, the Big Bad Wolf, knowing this a tried and true method, said, "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I will blow your house down." And the little pig just shrugged and went back to his book. So the Big Bad Wolf, he huffed and he puffed and he blew, and nothing happened. The house remained, and he grew angry, and so he huffed and he puffed again, and he blew, and the house stand true. And he called again, little pig, let me in." And the little pig called, "I don't think so, but if you would like to come in, you could come through the chimney." And the Big Bad Wolf said, well, that is quite smart. But he did not see from the chimney that the smoke was coming, for you see, the little pig had been cooking his own dinner and had a pot of boiling water with the most luxurious soup boiling and bubbling along inside. And so the Big Bad Wolf, he climbed to the top of the roof, and he looked down, and he thought, just a little bit of smoke doesn't bother me, and he began to shove his way down, and about halfway down, he slipped and fell all the way down into that boiling pot of water, and he let out a great yelp. But unfortunately, being so full of the other pigs, he could not climb his way out, and he met his demise in the boiling water of the third little pig. And the third little pig looked at the wolf and said, "You'll huff and you'll puff and you blow my house down. I think not." The end.